time for the international press review now, and I'm again joined by Elena Casas. Hello, Elena.
Hi, Suze.
The international press are going heavy on the Algerian independence anniversary.
Yes, we talked a bit earlier about how the French papers have covered it. Let's have a look at how it's being covered in Algeria. Now, this isn't really a day of celebration for them. When they celebrate their independence is on the 5th of July, anniversary of the proclamation of the Algerian state. Now is more an excuse to kind of go back over some of the worst atrocities that were committed during that war and have a bit of a historical debate about how exactly it should be remembered. Now, one of the Algerian papers, Liberté, has managed to find a poll according to which 57% of the French only think Algerian independence is a good thing. That means nearly half of them think it's not, of course. Now, for the Algerian paper Liberté, that's kind of allows them to say that some of the French are still holding on to old colonialist memories, that they still haven't quite realised that Algeria is an independent state on a par equally with France. Now, in their editorial, they say that Algeria should be doing a better job of teaching its own history to its own children and young people. They say that lots of this history is unknown. In France, a lot of it to do with the atrocities committed by French troops because the French government deliberately wants to cover it up, they say. In Algeria, it's not being taught properly just because the teaching sort of resources aren't there, and so all these personal histories are being lost. People who fought in the Algerian war on both sides, they're not being passed on properly, they say, and they have a duty to allow generations of young Algerians to find out about it.
Wow, that's quite an interesting issue to have to deal with, I guess. What about the debate about whether the war should be celebrated in the first place?
Well, there's quite a debate going on about how it should be remembered. The paper Le Quotidien d'Oran says there's a war of memory going on between France and Algeria. Basically, they're accusing the French media, who have recently made quite a lot of long-form documentaries and TV series and things like that to commemorate the anniversary, of using all the resources that they have to try and tell the French side of the story and perpetuate what they call a series of myths. They say that while these TV programmes admit that the French behaved badly, they also say there were atrocities on both sides. They say that not all Algerians wanted independence. They say that the French didn't necessarily behave all that badly, that things like that. And they say that they're just not true, those stories. They're trying to tell a story that fits in well with what the French government wants to hear, even though we're 50 years on from the events. And it's hard from the Algerians to fire back, at least according to this article, telling their own story because they just don't have the resources to make, Algerian public TV doesn't have the resources to make big documentaries and big TV series. So they say unless they find a way to tell young people their own story, they'll end up watching the French programmes and learn a false image of their story, if you like. Another major Algerian paper, El Watan, is also looking at the same question, but they basically come to an opposite conclusion. They say that the Algerian government has spent too long spinning a myth about just how badly the French colonial occupiers treated the Algerians in order to make their own government look better in contrast, if you like. But now they say that apart from a few very far-right colonialist nostalgics in France, everyone knows that the French occupation was brutal, so the Algerian government should start admitting that Algerian freedom fighters also committed atrocities. So there's quite an argument going on between those Algerian papers about what exactly they should be remembering.
Well, 50 years on and it's just as controversial, clearly. Staying with North Africa, and Gaddafi's intelligence chief Abdullah al-Senussi was arrested over the weekend in Mauritania. Now there's a row over who gets to extradite him.
Yeah, this is an interesting report you find here in today's Guardian. Now, according to them, the International Criminal Court, France and Libya have all sent Mauritania different arrest warrants to try and get hold of Abdullah al-Senussi. They all want to try him separately since he was picked up in Mauritania for having a false passport on Saturday. They all want him for different crimes as well. The ICC want him for crimes against humanity that he allegedly committed during the recent Libya war. France wants him for organising a bombing of an airliner that was French in 1989 over Niger that killed 54 French people. And Libya wants him for allegedly directing a massacre of prisoners at a Tripoli prison that killed 1,200 people in 1996. So it's all a bit controversial, but the question will be whether Mauritania thinks that it's International Criminal Court that theoretically has jurisdiction, or whether they'll agree with Libya's demands that it should have sovereignty over judging its own citizens.
It'll be interesting to see who wins out on that one for sure. And also, Germany has elected a new president. How's 72-year-old Joachim Gauck going down with the press?
Well, the New York Times has an article saying, can Joachim Gauck make Germany look more likeable? They say they've become the bad guys enemies of Europe by imposing, of course, tough budget discipline through those Euro negotiations. They've become really unpopular, especially in southern Europe, where puppets apparently of Angela Merkel dressed up as a Nazi were burnt in recent street fiestas in Spain and Greece. But Joachim Gauck is known as a kind of a calm man, as someone very diplomatic, for fighting against the communists when he was a pastor in East Germany. So if anyone can create a good international image of Germany, both to the Germans themselves and internationally, then it should be him, they say.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you very much, Elena Casas, for that press review there.